a KQED television production.
Today, Americans are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on wearable devices and smartphone apps to track their fitness.
This amazing explosion of wireless health devices is giving us the kind of feedback we've never had until now.
This isn't just the latest health fad. From the number of steps walked to the genes in our bodies, we can now generate our own health data. But who has access to this information, and can regulation keep up with innovation? Coming up, how new technologies are helping drive a digital health revolution to hack, track, and quantify our lives.
Support for Quest is provided by the National Science Foundation, Hope Lab, the David B. Gold Foundation, the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation, the Dirk and Charlene Kabcenell Foundation, the Vadasz Family Foundation, George G. and Jeanette A. Stewart Charitable Trust, and the members of KQED. Quest is a project of KQED Science.
Justin!
Hey Clara, you ready to get started?
Let's do it!
Alright, on the menu today we got kettlebell thrusters to start.
Clara Zavani is a 25-year-old tech worker in San Francisco. As she lifts, squats, and rows, her trainer tracks her progress.
Very good. Alright Clara, you have 2 low rows left.
Clara is also getting some digital help to track her progress toward a big goal.
I tried losing weight pretty much throughout my life. Ever since I was a little kid, I tried multiple different kinds of methods, and nothing really worked or taught me to make a lifelong change until I started wearing a wearable device.
And very nice. Woo! Great job today.
All right.
That's it. That's all I got.
Thanks, man.
This wearable device on Clara's wrist is an activity tracker that records her physical activity and sleep. In 2013, Americans spent $240 million on these devices.
Every hour, hour and a half, it will sync automatically with my iPhone, and it will tell me how many steps I've taken in that amount of time.
A little friendly screen-to-screen and face-to-face rivalry motivates Clara to stay fit.
Some of my coworkers actually wear the Misfit Shine. We started receiving tweets and notifications of who is getting up the most and who is walking the most. This is the first time that I ever am able to see how much I'm walking or how many exact calories are in the meal in front of me. It really has become a superpower that I don't think I could live without right now.
Meanwhile, high-tech companies such as Google, Samsung, and Apple are creating new mobile technologies, from smart watches to smart eyewear. And entrepreneurs are launching new digital services. Want a 15-minute remote doctor visit? Well, now there's even an app for that.
Hi, this is Dr. Ian Tong with Doctor On Demand.
Hey Doc, I hurt my wrist last night playing basketball. It really hurts to do that. I was hoping you can tell me if this is serious or not, if I need to go in. It's pretty tender.
A revolutionary new era in healthcare is taking off. Spurred by Silicon Valley, new high-tech tools are allowing people to unlock information about their bodies and track everything from sleep to stress, even the bacteria in their guts. It's part of a growing digital trend that could reshape medical research and forever change our relationship with our doctors.
You know, one of the things I study is the history of technological disruptions, and it happens over and over and over again. Whether it was in the banking industry with ATMs coming in and now you no longer need tellers and you can get to your money directly. I think you're going to be able in the next 5 to 10 years to get to a point where you have a right to get to your data about your body without having to go to the doctor.
Upon arriving in San Diego in 2000, computer science professor Larry Smarr set out to get fit. But he did a lot more than just track the pounds he shed. He began looking at the changes in his body through blood tests.
This spreadsheet is a readout of my body as a machine, as a biochemical machine. And there are probably 1,000 data points altogether.
Within this sea of numbers, Smar spotted a spike in one part of his immune system, an early clue that something was wrong.
But I didn't know where in my body it was. But then I realized that I could start taking stool tests. You put it in a little tube and you send it off in the mail and you get a bunch of numbers back. And I had this one variable, a protein called lactoferrin, and I found out that when you take healthy people and you look at their lactoferrin, it's less than 7. Mine was 900.
Smar jumped online and learned that his high levels might signal an autoimmune disease, but his doctor was skeptical.
I took this in to see the doctor, and he looks at this and he says, "What's that? It's not useful. That's not medicine." And I said, "Yeah, but it's science."
So he got a new doctor, one who would listen to him. Smar found out he had Crohn's disease, a chronic inflammatory disease of the intestines. Although there is no cure for it, Smar changed his diet and began taking probiotic supplements, which seemed to help.
People will say to me, "Larry, this is crazy. I don't want to know if I've got something wrong with me that's getting worse." I find that such a peculiar attitude. If you're in a car and the accelerator gets stuck and there's a brick wall up ahead, but you have time to stop, would you say, "Let's black out the windshield and I don't want to know what's going to happen"? That's crazy. I want to see where I'm going and I might still have time to stop.
This better living through data sentiment is being embraced by a growing community of people who intensely track, hack, and quantify their lives.
My name is Jennifer Fader, and I'm a member of the LA Quantified Self community. Quantified Self to me is really knowing yourself through numbers. It can reveal some patterns that you would never recognize otherwise, which can be very empowering. I had a corporate job for many years where I sat at a desk for 8 hours a day. By quantifying exactly how sedentary I was every single day, I actually left my corporate job.
Jennifer started her self-tracking journey in 2007 when she decided to get in shape, a regimen that today includes Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It sounds anecdotal, but if you track it every day and then you see the numbers, you can see causality, and that's something that is, I think, so rare to feel like I have some connection between the things and the choices I'm making in my daily life.
Jennifer uses a Nike Fuel Band to monitor her physical activity and an app to track her heart rate. She shares her data with her social network, on and offline.
Quantified Self, I think you find across the board, these are people who share their data, which is also, I think, a really important element of why the movement has changed my life.
Tonight, Jennifer is attending a Quantified Self meetup event in Los Angeles.
We've seen the Quantified Self movement grow since 2008 almost as rapidly as we've seen the technological capabilities grow. So from one meetup in 2008, now we have over 100 meetups in 30 different countries around the world.
Ernesto Ramirez is the program director of Quantified Self Labs, which organizes the monthly meetups and international conferences.
People have been writing down diaries. People have been using different types of systems. What we see now is that people are able to collect lots of new different types of information in a much easier way. Do I get more steps if I'm more active in the morning? Am I happier when I send my wife more text messages? And what that allows them to do is to answer interesting questions about themselves.
Okay, so I see green.
At the meetups, self-trackers share resources and insights about things they track, such as mood and physical activity.
I don't do that much over the weekends. I tend not to take that many steps. I sleep more. It's great. But for some reason, at the end of the weekend, I look at kind of my profile of my activity and I feel down.
I'm thinking, you know, during the week you're busy, you're happy, and you need that downtime on the weekend to be a little miserable, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Oh yeah, there are no highs.
But some of the tracking activities can seem a bit extreme.
I did a 27-day water fast in November, so I lost 30 pounds in 27 days doing water only. I tracked everything, my glucose levels, obviously my weight, my blood pressure.
People say that it's a bunch of people that are self-obsessed. But when someone learns something from the process of self-tracking, they now have this power to gain personal knowledge about themselves.
What this says is that, for me at least, exercise is really expensive.
Even if it's not quite mainstream, the movement highlights a new ability to harness the power of the internet to visualize, analyze, and share the big data our bodies generate.
We live in almost a magic time because there have been these just world-changing developments of the cloud, whether it's the way you post things with Facebook, search for things with Google, buy things with Amazon, and now we're having the same thing but with our own body data. We're going to see a tremendous change from a system that's based on letting you get sick and then you go to the doctor to a system that keeps you healthy.
Just up the road from Silicon Valley, a new generation of entrepreneurs is driving the tech revolution in America's nearly $3 trillion healthcare industry.
Rock Health funds and supports early-stage entrepreneurs that are working on technology solutions in healthcare. We give startups funding, $100,000, office space for 6 months here in San Francisco, and then a full suite of services and support to help them grow their businesses. We call the intersection of healthcare and technology digital health. Last year, in 2013, we saw nearly $2 billion poured into this industry. That was 100% growth from 2011. If you look at the companies that were funded, I think about a third of them were in the Bay Area and in California at large. This is absolutely the hub for innovation in digital health. I'm passionate about this space because I see a huge opportunity for us to use some of the same technologies that have succeeded in other industries and bring them to healthcare.
Spire is one of the new startups being funded by Rock Health and its investors. The company is building a wearable device that tracks physical activity and breathing patterns.
What we've engineered here is a device that has an extraordinary number of sensors, no matter what you're doing throughout your day. Whether you're walking, we're collecting how many steps and calories you're burning. Whether you're sitting down at work, we're seeing your state of mind. What you're seeing behind me is some of that data streaming by. We see every step a user takes, every breath. And the result of that is that you get this very detailed insight into someone's entire day. This is Nima's breathing right now. Takes a deep breath. It gets bigger. What's amazing is our breathing patterns, our state of mind is changing throughout the day.
But what the user really wants is to make sense of that data in their actual day-to-day life. Am I sitting too much today? Am I getting enough movement? Am I getting focus time? As well as, am I getting moments of relaxation to balance out that focus time?
Just across the street, a medical team at the University of California, San Francisco is exploring how new mobile technologies may help fight the #1 killer in the United States.
The Healthy Heart Study is an entirely electronic clinical study focused on heart disease, where we can validate and test whether mobile health technologies and sensor technologies really do have an impact on health outcomes or cost of healthcare delivery.
People participating in the study use wireless activity trackers, blood pressure cuffs, and apps that quickly read vital signs.
One of the things we're doing is collecting EKGs from most of the people in the study, and it's just a case that fits on your smartphone, and just by starting the app and touching the electrodes in the back, it'll record an EKG, and it's already sent automatically through the internet to our study.
An EKG, or electrocardiogram, can indicate abnormal heart rhythms and some forms of underlying heart disease.
We gave out 1,000 of these devices to our participants, and within 3 weeks we had over 20,000 EKGs sent in. If you contrast that to what happens in traditional studies, it could take years to collect thousands of EKGs because it would require people to come in to get the recording done.
Dr. Olgin and his team want to recruit 1 million study participants around the world. Apps and devices wirelessly relay data about their heart health to the study's website.
It's not the tools that we really lack in medicine and in heart disease, it's really the lack of big data. And if we really are able to collect enough of this large, dense data, we hope to be able to gain insights that do much better at predicting individual risk and get towards the holy grail of personalized medicine.
A digital dashboard helps visualize and keep up with the constant flow of information.
This dashboard basically just borrows technology and approaches that are in use every day at Google and other internet-based firms to monitor clicks, how often people are logging on, and we've just adapted those same approaches to monitoring real-time updates of what's happening in the study, how many people have signed on, what the age distribution is, what countries they're from. Within a few seconds, we can identify subgroups within the study and instantly send them a message or instantly ask them to take a blood pressure reading. Well, let's start with checking your blood pressure.
Okay. While Dr. Olgan sees some benefit from wearable devices and fitness apps, he says their usefulness in a clinical setting has yet to be proven.
Well, your blood pressure looks good. And are you still exercising?
Yep, walking around the block
How often?
every day.
For how long?
As long as it takes me to walk around the block and yak with my neighbors.
There's a plethora of consumer devices coming out. While I think they're generally safe, the big question is whether they will positively impact people's health. For example, will people use them after a certain period of time? And the type of person that's going to go out and buy a device and track their health or track their blood pressure or track their activity is a different sort of person than somebody who doesn't.
Still, new digital tools to get fit keep popping up, from more than 50,000 health and fitness apps to dozens of activity trackers. In 2013, 2/3 of all activity trackers sold in the U.S. were made by one company, Fitbit.
In 2007, when my co-founder Eric and I started Fitbit, the only types of advanced activity tracking devices on the market were really for serious athletes or triathletes, such as GPS watches or heart rate monitors. And we thought there was really a need for a mass market, but still advanced activity tracking device that would help just everyday Americans achieve their health goals. And we knew that there was a need because things like pedometers had been around for almost 100 years.
But clunky mechanical pedometers would not take off with today's consumers. So Fitbit engineered a new generation of smaller, smarter pedometers.
Our Fitbit devices use a variety of sensors. The accelerometer is used to gather motion data, such as how many steps you've walked, the distance you've traveled, etc. At night, the accelerometers also track the motion of your wrist. And based on subtle movements, we can determine how long you've slept, how many times you woke up throughout the night. The altimeter measures pressure changes, and we convert those into the number of floors that you've climbed.
The information is wirelessly synced with Bluetooth-enabled smartphones. Fitbit users can then not only track their activity, but also share it with friends and family. A common goal, 10,000 steps a day.
People today are used to sharing a lot of data publicly on Facebook and Twitter, and I don't think that's any exception with our users. A lot of the benefit comes with using the support of your friends and family to help you achieve your goals.
But even in the age of social media, privacy concerns are growing.
Privacy of health data is, I think, a very important topic. And what we do at Fitbit is treat the data as private by default. So if you track your data, you have to opt in to be able to share it with your friends and family. And there's a lot of different settings across which metrics you want to share and to who.
Still, the onus is on consumers to know the privacy settings and the privacy policies of the companies recording and storing their activity data.
I'm not only a law professor, but I also am a Fitbit user. I got one for Christmas, which I was really excited about. But when I started looking into the privacy policies, there were a lot of things there that kind of surprised me. And the first was that there were default settings that were some to the public, some to your friends, and some things that they kept private only for you. And so with the default public setting, they will share your photo, your nickname that you have on the site, the number of steps you took a day, and the distance that you went. There's a place that you can click in and scroll through these default settings and then change them. Actually, Fitbit's privacy policy is really quite good. There are some other wearable companies that don't make it as easy for you to identify where you can opt out of sharing your data.
But the privacy risks go beyond sharing how many steps you walked. Today, consumers can order a DNA kit from a company, 23andMe, to find out their genetic information from a saliva sample.
What's really interesting about 23andMe is, yes, for $99 you can get a lot of information about yourself that's really interesting. But it's also important to realize that what they really are also doing is creating a massive biobank of people's genetic data in hopes of aggregating that data, anonymizing it, but aggregating it, and then selling it to pharmaceutical companies, healthcare companies for use in research.
Hi, and welcome to 23andMe.
23andMe says it keeps the genetic data it collects anonymous, and the research from it may help cure diseases. But sales of the company's test kits, which told customers their risk of developing diseases like cancer or Alzheimer's, dropped following a government crackdown.
The FDA has ordered genetics testing firm 23andMe to stop selling its tests, to stop marketing. The FDA says it has not had its medical device test, a spit test, approved.
The FDA was very concerned because 23andMe had presented them with no data demonstrating the efficacy or accuracy of its test kit. The FDA is mandated to ensure the safety and efficacy of all medical devices that are offered in the United States.
So in November 2013, the FDA told 23andMe it could no longer provide health-related information with the test results. The company now only gives ancestry information and raw genetic data without interpretation. 23andMe continues to work with the FDA to restore all its services.
The FDA really has to play a large amount of catch-up with direct-to-consumer genetic testing and with a whole host of different devices that are now being used to provide medical information to consumers outside of the medical setting that we're very much used to.
As some people track the DNA in their cells or tally their steps and sleep, others may benefit from a deeper level of technology consumption.
I've just swallowed a pill and opened up an app. You can see I took one just before 7 o'clock this morning, and I took one here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There are other activity metrics like how many steps I've taken, how much rest I got last night, how active I've been, and then what my heart rate is.
Meet the world's first ingestible sensor, made by Proteus Digital Health in Redwood City, California. In 2012, the FDA cleared the sensor for use as a medical device.
It's about the size of a grain of sand. We can embed this in any medicine. There's a little bit of magnesium on one side, a little bit of copper on the other. When you swallow it and it gets wet, a voltage is formed that powers it for a few minutes and sends a signal containing a number like a digital heartbeat through your body to a patch that you also wear on your body.
This wearable patch not only records when the medication was taken, but also has sensors in it that record heart rate and physical activity. The data is then sent via Bluetooth to a smartphone, and an app allows the patient to share it with doctors and caregivers.
This kind of data is very helpful for patients and for physicians because right now only about half of all patients take their medicines at all correctly because they just don't understand how to do it. Doctors don't know how patients are taking their medicines, and no one's really sure whether they're responding to the meds or not. We're working with regulators right now to take this technology and embed it into actual prescription medications so that your medicine would be smart right from the pharmacy.
Proteus has launched pilot studies using ingestible sensors on patients with chronic diseases such as hypertension and Alzheimer's.
All around us is an increasing amount of interest in activity tracking and knowing about your health. The tools that are emerging put the patient in a driver's seat by giving them information from their own bodies about their therapy and their response to therapy.
We're going to need to really watch your diet, your exercise plans going forward.
In the future, we may come to rely less on our family doctor and more on a digital coach.
So as you can see, your oxygen looks wonderful. Your blood pressure is a little bit on the high side, and we're going to need to follow that. Although
I was thrilled to see the movie Her that came out in 2013 because it was the best dramatization of what I'm convinced is going to happen in the near future.
Good morning, Theodore. You have a meeting in 5 minutes. You want to try getting out of bed?
You're too funny.
Oh, good, I'm funny.
Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with his operating system. The operating system becomes smarter and smarter and smarter. That is what is going to help you understand your own health. You're going to have a personal coach that is going to be driven by artificial intelligence to figure out what number really matters, what trend you should be concerned about, and what not to worry about.
I never anticipated the mobile internet, the explosive ability to access information that formerly would require a trip to a university or a library right on your phone at any given moment. This technology has transformed our lives. It's transformed how we buy things, how we search for information. It's going to transform how we care for ourselves and our loved ones.
Support for Quest is provided by the National Science Foundation, Hope Lab, the David B. Gold Foundation, the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation, the Dirk and Charlene Kabcenell Foundation, the Vadasz Family Foundation, George G. and Jeanette A. Stewart Charitable Trust, and the members of KQED. Quest is a project of KQED Science.
A KQED television production.